It happened in the dead of night. The sky cracked open, the rivers rose, and within moments, Texas was drowning. This is not just a story about rising waters. It's a story about lives lost, families torn apart, and heroes made in the darkest hours. This is the story of the 2025 Texas flood disaster, and what it reveals about the fragile balance between nature, technology, and human resilience. The hill country of Texas is known for its beauty: winding rivers, rustic camps, and quiet towns that cradle generations of family memories. On a normal day, the Guadalupe River sparkles under the sun. But on July 5, 2025, nature had a different plan. Children were at camp, parents were sharing photos. 4th of July fireworks had barely faded, and then it started to rain. What was forecast as a localized thunderstorm turned into a catastrophic weather event. With over 16 inches of rain falling in under 12 hours, the rivers became tidal waves. Flash flooding swallowed roads, homes, and entire camps in minutes. Imagine being in total darkness. No power, no signal, no clear escape route. All you can hear are screams. Screams from children, from neighbors, from those you loved. That was the reality for dozens of families. One camper said the water sounded like a freight train, louder than thunder, closer than a whisper. Another survivor described gripping the rafters of a mess hall ceiling with her bare fingers, holding her breath as the current rose above her waist. At Camp Mystic, two best friends from Dallas, Eloise Peck and Lila Bonner, had just finished 2nd grade. They never made it home. Their camp director, Dick Eastland, a father of 4, died trying to save them. They weren't alone. Of the 78 confirmed dead, 28 were children. In Kerr County alone, the heart of the tragedy, 68 lives were lost. One grandmother who was with her twin granddaughters said she floated on a mattress for nearly 2 hours, singing hymns into the dark just to keep the girls calm. Only she survived. These are not just statistics. They are stories, snapshots of ordinary people facing unimaginable chaos.
An unimaginable tragedy in Texas.
Hearing the screams, because you couldn't see anything, it was pitch black. Kids screaming, asking for help.
Historic flooding taking too many lives, destroying families and communities.
It's like mass destruction. It's like a third world war zone.
It's a horrible thing that took place. Absolutely horrible.
The hill country just starting to process its grief. The nonstop search for the missing continues.
You know, I've got 2 babies at home, and there's people out there that they're missing their children or their family members, so I feel like it's the least I could do to help.
As recovery efforts begin.
As I've said every time I've been before you, please pray for our community.
Tonight, people across the world have Texas on their minds. Statewide, the death toll from flash flooding stands at 78. Dozens more are missing tonight. Families have shared photos of victims who've died, those who haven't yet been found, and those who survived. It includes Eloise Peck and Lila Bonner. They were best friends from Dallas, summer campers at Camp Mystic after just finishing the 2nd grade, both lost in the flood. The director of that camp, Dick Eastland, also died. He was trying to save campers, according to the Kerrville Daily Times. He was a father of 4. These are just some of the stories we will share tonight and in the coming days. The most devastating loss is in Kerr County. 68 people died there.
In the hours that followed, rescue crews from across the state mobilized. Coast Guard helicopters hovered above riverbanks, infrared-equipped drones searched debris fields, and divers swam through snake-infested floodwaters. But even with every tool available, the toll continued to rise. Time was not on their side, and for every body recovered, another family's hope was extinguished. One hero, 27-year-old Julian Ryan, saved his family by breaking open a window as water surged into their home. He bled out before rescuers arrived. He died so others could live. With tragedies like this, questions always follow. Could it have been prevented? Were the alerts enough? Did the system fail? Authorities confirmed that general warnings were sent out, but many didn't receive them in time. Others received them but had no plan. In some cases, alert systems were too vague, too late, or simply overwhelmed. But it's deeper than just missed texts. The emergency warning infrastructure in some rural Texas counties still relies on opt-in systems, reverse 911 calls, outdated weather radios, and in some cases word of mouth. A Kerr County resident explained it best. "I got the alert, but I didn't know it meant evacuate now. I thought we had hours, we had minutes." And it's not just the alerts. Rescue teams struggled to get to flooded zones because access roads were too narrow, or submerged or blocked with debris. In many places, GPS failed, and responders had to use boats to reach second-story rooftops. There were gaps, not just in communication but in preparedness, and they cost lives. In Kerrville and surrounding counties, grief hung heavy in the air. Churches opened their doors. Town squares turned into shrines. Green ribbons, symbols of remembrance, were tied around trees across the state. At First Presbyterian Church in Kerrville, Jane Ragsdale, a beloved camp director, was among those lost, but her presence was still felt in every tear, every prayer, and every hymn sung in her memory. 4 generations of the Jacobs family lived by the river. Now, they're searching for pieces of their home and of their history, buried under silt and sorrow. First came the shock, then came the exhaustion, and then came the questions that never seemed to have answers. What do you do when your town is gone? How do you grieve when your child is missing? Overwhelmed. That's the word most used by survivors, not just from the loss, but from the sensory chaos. Helicopters above, dive teams below, reporters on the ground, and the river, still rising in some areas, threatening to repeat itself. But even in tragedy, there is light. Communities came together, strangers became lifelines, meals were shared, prayers were whispered, hands were held tight. One church sheltered more than 200 people. A local rancher offered his land as a temporary shelter. The University of North Texas fast-tracked DNA identifications to bring families closure. Funds poured in, and across the state, hearts opened for once, not divided by politics but united by pain. So what now? When the cameras leave and the water recedes, what remains? The families, and the questions. Could infrastructure have changed the outcome? Why weren't more flood barriers built? Could mandatory evacuation plans have saved lives? We can't undo what's been done, but we can change what happens next. Smarter alerts, community drills, stronger infrastructure, and most of all, remembrance. This flood wasn't just rare, it was historic. Meteorologists called it a 500-year flood event. But here's the thing, events like these are happening more often. In the last decade alone, Texas has seen 3 so-called once-in-a-century storms. Is it bad luck, or is nature trying to tell us something? The truth is, climate change isn't just about rising temperatures, it's about intensified patterns. More rain, more wind, more devastation in places we once thought safe. And when human systems, warnings, roads, emergency plans are not built for today's reality, they break. And when they break, people die. Texas will rebuild. It always does. But rebuilding the same way would be a betrayal of the dead, of the survivors, of the children who never made it home. As the sun rises again over Kerr County, the river has quieted, but it carries a memory of 78 lives lost, and hundreds more forever changed. To forget them would be another tragedy. This isn't just Texas's story, it's America's. It's about the power of water and the power of love in the face of it. If this story moved you, share it, not for views, but for awareness, for the lives lost, for the survivors, and for the future. Subscribe to this channel for more stories that matter, because sometimes the best thing we can do is not forget.